All right, the hour of 6:30 having arrived, I'd like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for November for the City of Columbus. Mike, will you take the roll?
Traxler. Wright. Here. Albright.
Present.
Monday.
Present.
Myers. Present. Majewski. Present. Finkler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Mike, will you please confirm that this meeting was properly noticed as an open meeting according to state statute?
It was properly noticed.
Excellent. All right, we have our agendas in front of us in some way, shape, or form. Please take a look at them, and I'll entertain a motion to approve as written or an amendment.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, this will be our agenda. Minutes are also in your packet from our October meeting. Please take a moment to review, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve or amend.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. We have minutes from last meeting. All right, no old business on the agenda. We'll move on to new business. This evening, there is a public hearing for the stormwater ordinance repealing sections 114-158 through 114-169 and moving to chapter 48 of the municipal code. Mike, am I correct in saying that this had its first presentation last month and this is a continuation, or is this a different ordinance?
At a previous meeting, I'm not remembering which one, there was a update to the erosion control ordinance.
Okay, so this is
And it's
related but separate.
related but separate.
Thank you.
And also very similar in how we had it in our municipal
Right.
code. They both were located in our zoning ordinance, and we're putting it in its own chapter. We did that with erosion control that passed city council, and now we're doing a similar thing with an update to our stormwater ordinance.
Okay, thank you for refreshing my memory. And Jason, you had sort of foreshadowed that the last time that one was here. Okay. All right, wonderful. So, first, we'll start with the public hearing for the stormwater ordinance. I'd like to open the public hearing and invite any member of the public who wishes to speak on the ordinance to speak. Mike, was there anything sent as comment?
Did not receive any comments,
Okay.
and we have no one signed up to speak.
Okay. I'll ask for a second time. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on the proposed stormwater ordinance? And for a third and final time, any member of the public who wishes to speak on the proposed stormwater ordinance? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and move on to the next item, and that is discussion and possible action regarding the repeal and amendment of the stormwater ordinance. Either Mike or Jason, you want to introduce this in general to the commission?
Absolutely. Thanks, Uriah. So what we have before everybody tonight is the update of the stormwater ordinance. This has been in the works for quite a while. If you remember, this came out of our comprehensive study as a recommendation. This ordinance was originally, approved with the last revision in 2007. So it's quite a few years old. A lot of things have changed with stormwater. A lot of references in here were outdated. And so it's kind of due time to kind of do this with the erosion control ordinance, kind of update everything. So what we did, working with staff, is a couple things. For purposes of public hearing tonight, there was a couple sections we're repealing out of the zoning ordinance. There also is, interestingly enough, some duplication ordinance in Chapter 90, which is our subdivision ordinance. That will also be repealed ultimately as part of this project. The other thing that we did is we have updated our stormwater to contain some permits. We haven't had a standalone stormwater permit before. But now we can do a lot better tracking, make sure that requirements are being met when they're submitted. So that is part of the ordinance. So the ordinance now has a permit section that requires a permit and then references the new permit that's in place, again, much like the erosion control. We also have a stormwater maintenance agreement for those best practices that we're requiring to be installed. We've always had this stormwater maintenance agreement as part of this, but now the ordinance requires it. Even though we really had required it previously, we didn't have that in the ordinance that required it. And so people would oblige us because we asked for it, but we feel like now we have the enforcement piece in the ordinance. Much like the erosion control ordinance, this kind of originates from a standard model ordinance from the DNR that they have out there. There's a lot of good stuff in that, but as you well know, Columbus is unique like every community and has their own things that they want to focus on. So we took some time going through this model ordinance and then updating it with things specific to Columbus that have been issues in the past, and I think a little bit of that really kind of stems from just me and staff having years of experience knowing like what are the issues and how do we want to make sure that we get those things updated in the ordinance to make sure that we're doing we're good stewards of the environment and we're doing the right thing when we're requiring this. There's a fine line obviously between requiring too much and being too restrictive, but also we have to protect the environment and the development within the city. So the highlights of the ordinance, if we take a few minutes just to go through here, is that we have some additions in here that address different types of developments. Before it was a development needed stormwater. Now we talk about infill developments. We talk about redevelopment. You see that on a lot of sites where people are tearing down, expanding, adding impervious areas. And so now our ordinance does specifically kind of address those things. The other thing that we added in here, much like the erosion control ordinance, we decided that it makes sense to excuse me, have the ordinance apply to development that's under the acre threshold. In a lot of cases, we were seeing developments come in here, and you know the old ordinance said if you were over an acre, you had to follow the stormwater requirements. We had a lot of development over the years on smaller lots, which were skirting under that, but yet they're increasing the stormwater runoff and didn't have to comply with the ordinance. So we put some new language in here for those instances of infill and redevelopment, that they do have to meet some stormwater ordinance requirements, not the standard of new development. We don't expect somebody who's doing an addition or adding on has to meet the high level of a greenfield development, but we did add some of that in here. We've also rolled back the threshold for lot size, again, for disturbance, to make sure that we're treating and capturing and retaining stormwater. So those are things that were kind of updated in here that were different. We also have a section that goes into much more in depth about infiltration. Infiltration is important to make sure that as our stormwater is coming and it's running off, it's causing issues. So we want to try and encourage people to capture it and let it soak back into the ground. I mean, that's the best place for it, rather than just being direct surface water discharge. So we do have a lot more detail in here about requiring that. That is a state standard, but we just haven't had that level of detail in here to kind of clearly define how Columbus would like to see that done. So we've added that in as kind of a highlight of what we've added in here. And then there's a bunch of things in here about protective areas, wetlands, things that we want to make sure that we're not disturbing. Those are great stormwater features that we want to use naturally. So those are things that we've put in here to make sure that we are protecting those. A couple of other things that we added in here, we have information in here that talks about sump pump discharges. As all of you are aware that can be problematic, and our old ordinance was relatively silent on that, so we did include some language in there that gives us the ability to help kind of control that when we're having discharges onto sidewalks and into streets and things like that. Much like drain tiles or roof drains, we have something in there for that as well. We talk about oil and grease control. Those are things that protect our environment for large parking lots, commercial, industrial. When we see those developments, we want to make sure that we have something in our ordinance for that. Historically, we had something very basic in there that really wasn't clear. So we've put a little bit more definition to that. Culverts, that was another thing that we had been missing before. How do we regulate culverts? How do we size them, what we require, what those materials are when they're in the right-of-ways? We want to make sure that people aren't putting smaller pipes in downstream, causing flooding upstream, things like that. So our new ordinance is going to address some of that. So we really felt like those were the big things. And so at the end of this section that you have before you is our permit section that I talked about, our stormwater maintenance agreement and plans, that's in here. There's a lot in here about enforcement, you know, basically what the fee schedule is and how the city can enforce that and who enforces it. And then there's an appeal section. So if you don't like the ordinance and you feel like you're treated unfairly, you can certainly appeal. And we have a methodology in here for that. So I think we've, again, followed very similarly what we did with our last erosion control ordinance and put together a pretty comprehensive stormwater ordinance here. So we're hoping that on a rainy day, the public would have been in here talking about stormwater, but apparently it's us. So any questions for me?
You referenced that you worked with staff as
Yeah.
you went through the changes and editing. Who staff? What staff? do you
Yeah,
work
so
with?
city staff particularly, so when we meet with our staff meetings here, our developmental review teams, we talk about these type of things because they do affect projects when they come in. So certainly Matt, the administrator, Mike is a key part of that. Joe, as the mayor, is part of that as well. So we're just drawing from experience. I know Matt and Mike are relatively new. Joe holds a lot of history here too, way more than I do. So it's good to kind of get information, input from him. Certainly when Troy was here for Public Works, he had some input obviously into this, and then the city attorney sits in those meetings as well. So we talk about how we can implement this, what type of formats we need, and things like that as well. So it's kind of a collaborative effort between that group.
I don't really have any questions. I just want to say that I'm thrilled that we're updating our ordinance. This has, been a long time waiting, and Columbus really needed it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would agree. I think it's long overdue, and I feel very confident that this is a large step forward to help address the stormwater issues that we have in Columbus. Not going to resolve them, but it's definitely a step forward. So.
I have a couple quick ones. You mentioned the 1 acre threshold. That's a DNR requirement. You need a permit from the state when you grade more than an acre. What is the threshold that got chosen that'll have the need for a local permit here?
You're going to make me remember because it's been a while.
Is that the 1250? 12,500 for 20,000.
Yeah, I want to say it's 20,000. I think that's the number. So
Well, I saw, but on page 6,
6. Let me see.
you have 20,000 scratched off and 12,500. What place is it?
2 places, right?
Oh, it's a couple different bullets.
Yeah, so there's kind of a graduated scale for redevelopment. So we start at 5,000 disturbance. Anything less from that doesn't need anything, and then we have a graduated scale of 7,500 to 20,000 square feet, and then anything over 20,000 square feet, has with the first 12,500 square feet being considered redevelopment. So if you have a large redevelopment, we're saying the first 12,500 is redevelopment, which meets those standards. But then once you're beyond that, then we're going to consider that strictly new development, right? At that point, you have a lot of impact to the site, so we're going to hold you to a higher standard for that amount above that threshold. So,
Okay. Great. The other question was, I know the standard or the model ordinance excludes 1 and 2 family homes. Does this include 1 and 2 family homes?
we excluded that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Because again, Most of the single-family homes that we anticipate being built will handle stormwater management on a plat
global
level.
scale, yeah.
Right, so they're not required to do it on a lot-by-lot basis specific to their homes. So again, that would be something that's excluded in this, correct?
And it's also possible that larger scale commercial or industrial development might have a wide scale management plan, in which case,
Yes.
even when businesses come in, they will sort of work under that pre-planned larger scale system.
Right, and so we actually have that language in here specific to that requirement that they may have a regional facility. The thing that we did write in here, though, that we did want to make sure that we hit was if that regional facility was designed and implemented in 1980 under the current standards in 1980, any redevelopment or new development that would occur today has to meet this ordinance. So they may say, we're regionally covered by the pond over there that was built in 1986. And we're going to say, that's fine, you get credit for that portion that meets the ordinance requirements, but this is more strict, so you're going to need to do more in addition to supplement what you currently have regionally. So that's, the ordinance does talk all about that in here, is how we apply that, so.
Great, thank you. Others? Okay, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion to recommend to council the ordinance as presented, or entertain a motion for an amendment.
I will move to recommend the, what do I say, Chapter 48 revised ordinance to council.
I have a motion and a second. Can I presume that your motion includes the repeal from the
I'll
corresponding
amend my
repeal?
motion to include the repeal of sections 114 through 158, 114 through 158 through 114, 160, 114, 158 through 114, 169, and moving to chapter 48.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Yes, Mike? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Mike, please forward to council. Thank you, Jason. All right, next item is our final plat for Cardinal Heights. Mike, is that you, or Jason, is that you again?
It's both of us a little
Oh,
bit.
boy. All right.
I'll just do a little summary, and Jason can pipe in here. The submitted final plat is very similar to the preliminary plat. And of course, the approved preliminary plat had some conditions in there that needed to be met, and some of those are included here, including the movement of lot 8. There's some issues with lot 18 and the 50-foot setback. That lot 18 is now meets the 50-foot setback, so that addressed a little bit of the lot width on that east side. The applicant did submit to Wisconsin Department of Transportation for a special exception for the stormwater pond and public utilities to be in that 50-foot setback. That decision will not be discussed until November 21st. So that, if you wish as a planning commission, you can approve under the condition that that issue be addressed. Jason, do you want to comment further?
Yeah, to Mike's point, again, you should recognize this final plat when you look at it. It's very similar to the preliminary plat. Probably the most notable thing is that, we previously had talked about this highway setback. And with the preliminary plat, I remember sitting here, unfortunately telling you guys that I was fairly confident the DOT was going to honor and remove the setback, and the DOT declined that. And so now we're trying to finalize this plat with the highway setback in place. What that really does then is that does put utilities, our particularly our water and our sewer and our stormwater basin that's in Outlot 1, primarily in this setback. So what's required by the DOT is a special exception to allow those infrastructure improvements in that setback. And that is something obviously that the DOT has to approve, and it's not uncommon for them to allow those things in a setback. But again, it's, primarily we can't put houses or structures or anything in those setbacks. So at this point, the application by the developer has been filed by the DOT. To our knowledge, Mike had confirmed it is going to be here in the near future, heard by the DOT, and a decision or approval made on that. And so other than that, I mean, if you look at my review letter, there are a few, I guess, administrative things here that we're just asking the developer's surveyor to add to the map, including things like vision triangles that are required by code, and some more information on, center line bearings and distances, things like that. But I think the big thing, obviously, is this setback and just making sure that we get some kind of confirmation from the DOT. Just since it's on the state highway, it really kind of falls back to them for the final approval. So we kind of defer to them or default to them to say, we're okay with it from the last conversation. The only other thing that's here, and if you guys remember, there was a request for access from Lot 2, which is the original dingy farmhouse onto State Highway 73. And if you do look, that they do show a break in the access on the front of the plat in the lower right-hand corner of Lot 2, where they've allowed a 20-foot right-of-way for that driveway access to remain as you guys had recommended, and the council ultimately agreed with you guys. So that's been updated on here as well, and that is kind of one of the things that we did put on here. And my review letter said that there was a note that they had on here that I just wanted removed about the access. I think it was pretty clear we didn't need to note for clarification going forward. So outside of that, I think it's very similar. I think the intent and everything's the same. It's just working through a couple of these issues that we're needing to finalize. So I think we're here tonight at least to move this forward, conditioned upon meeting the requirements of my letter. And staff will make sure that, when we take it to council, we're clear that, a couple of these things are still outstanding. If you favorably move forward tonight, and we'll just kind of track this through the process, and hopefully the DOT will concur with our special request that the developer has submitted, and we can get this thing recorded, so.
Questions or comments? I assume that if our motion includes the contingency that the department approves the request and it turns out that they deny it, that's going to foster some need to change the plat and it'll end up showing up here again.
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we anticipate is, let's hypothetically play that out. So if the DOT denies their request for their infrastructure in the setback, they will have to rework some of this plat. What does that look like? I don't know. I would consider that a major change. This right now has had some minor tweaks to it, and the final plat's representative of the preliminary. We've kind of kicked around internally. We don't know what those changes would look like. If that's got to come back and the preliminary plat's got to be updated, and then we got to kind of run it back through, that could be as well. But again, I don't know what those look like right now. Primarily, the stormwater pond would probably be the biggest thing that would move up on the Lot 1 and probably just be an easement on Lot 1, I would guess. But it would probably still be a public used facility. And as far as the other utilities, the sewer and water, I mean, we have sewer and water buried in state right away all over. I don't know why they wouldn't make an exception for that. So I'm not too concerned about those. More so, I think the stormwater pond would be the bigger issue of what we do without Lot 1. So I guess I would be open to see what they do, but again, it would have to come back here at that point for reconsideration by this group and then ultimately the council anyways. So I guess we'll just kind of wait and see what the DOT says, but I think we're fine with it this way. If there is a change, we'll obviously have to go back and review it to make sure it makes sense, to meets all of our ordinance requirements and things as well.
And when do we expect that we'll hear back from the DOT?
Well, I was told that they're gonna, this topic will be discussed at central office on November 21st. When we hear back from DOT after that, I guess we'll see. Probably.
Any other questions?
In our last, I think it was our last meeting, we talked about having a consensus from the community about how this is all going to work. Are we going forward with any more reaching out to the community about how this is going to work down?
That was Tower Drive.
Yeah, I think you're thinking about
Yeah.
Tower
Yeah,
Drive.
different site.
Different site.
Was it different?
Yeah, yeah.
That was the sort of development study proposal that we talked about.
On,
It
yeah,
was the.
over by the
vari-
nursing
various-
home.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. RFP, that threw me off.
yep. No
I didn't know
problem.
what RFP even meant. Okay.
Any others? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion with or without conditions regarding recommendation of approval for the plat for Cardinal Heights.
I would make a motion to approve the Cardinal Heights final plat with conditions in the review letter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Does your motion include the contingency about the approval? Is that,
I just read the thing right off the
oh, all right. Was that in Jason's review? Okay. All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? None. Mike, please send it on.
Okay.
All right. Any future agenda items? I'll start with staff. Anything that we have cooking for upcoming meetings?
There's that, again, some annexation of city land we'll get to, soon, in the next couple months, probably. We likely will have conditional use permit for a, institutional use. I'm thinking at maybe the January or February meeting coming up. And then one thing to keep in mind here is that approved in the city council budget was money to hire a consultant to revise the city zoning code. That's all of chapter 114. So I'll be working on drafting a request for proposal, and that will be probably coming this way and then to the council. And so that's going to be, I want to move that up, get that process going. The thought is really to get going on this like springtime, so it'll go across 2 fiscal years. So I'm hoping to have this finished up spring of 2026, and it'll be, it's all a chapter 114, and kudos to the city council on approving a budget to include this, because like previous efforts, internal staff, it's such a big project. We will get this done. So we'll have an updated, better, modern, and more efficient zoning code.
Thanks. Members, any future discussion items? I saw you making the move.
I'm getting my
Okay.
finger ready.
All right.
Going back to the RFP discussion that we had, when do you expect that will come back?
Speaking with city leadership, this topic will be discussed at a workshop with the city council on Tuesday. So there'll be more input from the city council at that point.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Mike.